Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Ladies and gentlemen, some folks write songs. Some folks serve their country. Some folks teach the next generation. But every once in a while, someone comes along who does all three, like a walking, singing, soul-healing Swiss Army knife in cowboy boots. Well, today's guest didn't just find his voice. Well, he earned it. Born and raised in Del Rio, Texas, forged in the rhythm of the Army Band, and now shaping hearts as a music teacher in South Texas. Dan White is the kind of artist who reminds us that country music isn't about cliches, it's about truth. He's a singer-songwriter, a veteran, a healer, and a storyteller, blending country, Tex-Mex, Texas swing, and rock into something that feels like it was poured straight from a jukebox with dust on the dial and heart in the chorus. Now, a proud U.S. Army veteran, Dan's not afraid to get personal. His song, 22, tackles the heartbreak of veteran suicide with honesty and grace, turning grief into awareness and pain into purpose. And when he sings it, it's not for clout, it's for connection. He's a 2024 ISSA Singer of the Year nominee, a finalist in the Texas State Songwriter Championship, and he just dropped a single that's basically a mixtape of your childhood. 80s Child. It's a throwback anthem for anyone who's ever blown a Nintendo cartridge, jumped a BMX ramp, or fought the final boss with a bowl of sugary cereal in hand. It's nostalgic, it's heart, it's Dan. And when he's not recording or performing, he's showing up in the classroom, on stages, and in communities using his voice to build bridges between memory and music, between veterans and visibility, between the songs we sing and the stories we live. So whether you know him from the Fort Worth stage, a Spotify stream, or a soul-stirring setlist in a small-town gymnasium, you're about to see what happens when purpose meets melody and the mic drops itself. Please welcome the pride of Del Rio, the six-string storyteller with something to say, the rhythm-riding, truth-singing, veteran-hearted rock star, Daniel White. Daniel, thank you so much for your time and welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I want to dive into this with you here, but I want to dial back a little bit first. Let's start with your roots. When you first enlisted to the U.S. Army, can you take us through that journey? And first of all, thank you very much for your service.
Well, I was in high school and didn't really have much else to do with my future, and college was kind of out of the way because of the money issues. So said, why not? So I went out, and 2 days after I graduated, I was on a bus into Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and the rest is history.
And did you always see music and your military path kind of forming together?
Not at first. Actually, when I first joined up, I was supposed to be a supply specialist. But as I got into it, I was able to pull some strings and things, and I got switched to one of the band fields. And then from there, I enlisted in the military band.
And for those of us who don't know, what is a supply specialist?
Basically just a person that requisitions things and keeps track of everything that units use for the field, things like that.
And then you transitioned over to the Army Band. Walk us through that. What were you playing at the time?
Well, I was just out of high school, and I went back for about a semester of college when I came back from basic training. And because I originally had joined the National Guard here in Texas, and then I started liking the closeness, the camaraderie, and stuff that was in the military. So I decided to go ahead and audition for active duty. And I actually made it as a person straight out of high school. So that's kind of an accomplishment in itself, because most nowadays you have to have some sort of a degree or something before they'll even audition you. So from there, it just went on.
Wow. So, and for those of us who are not super familiar, you're saying that you were taken right out of high school there, which is an accomplishment in itself. Why is it that they say, hey, you need to kind of have some post-secondary education before we accept you?
Because in the band field, they expect you to already be a really high caliber musician, and they expect you to kind of already have a little bit under your belt. And here I was real green coming out straight out of high school. I didn't really have too much life experience in the musician world, except for, practicing and playing concerts with my high school band and things like that.
So you were a rock star in high school right from go. And were you singing and playing the guitar with your high school band?
I was playing bass guitar, yes. Not singing or anything like that. No, that didn't happen until I got more into the Army.
And then while you were there in your service, how do you feel that shaped your relationship with music?
Well, it made me a better player because I was around better players. I'd never been around world-class musicians. And, they say to make yourself a better person, always surround yourself with the best people you can. And that's kind of how it happened. Here I was like I said, a young green kid musician. And here I get thrown into different parts of the world with all these world-class musicians. So not only was it a job shock, it was a culture shock sometimes and things like that.
So I just want to make sure I understand this. So you joined the Army, you got transitioned into the band, which was amazing, and then you traveled the world just being a rock star with the Army and the Army band.
Right. I mean, the Army band, our predominant mission is to support troops, give them morale, give them concerts and things like when they're in forward operating bases, things like that, or deployed in the field. But our secondary mission is still also, we still got to do the Army stuff, shoot and zero our weapons, things like that. And kind of the band, what their alternate assignment is act like MPs kind of. So we do a lot of gate guard duty and guard the generals and things like that.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And, I want to ask you about your song 22. It's incredibly powerful, but what made you want to write about veteran suicide?
It's a problem that's gotten worse over the years. Yeah, the VA has done better in some cases lately, but there's still a lot of bureaucratic red tape. And a lot of times people are denied their benefits, like if they get hurt in the military or something like that. And even though they've got all this proof, somebody still says, oh, no, they don't have it, So I've seen veterans that have kind of given up on life because they're like, well, what can I do now? I mean, they trained me to do this job and I did this job for them and now I've just been discarded kind of like trash. It's one of those things we really need to fix. And so I wrote this song to kind of bring awareness to it as one. And two, hopefully, if there's a veteran listen to it that's in a dark place, they'll realize, hey, your life means something and you'll get some help.
And what kind of response have you gotten so far from veterans and from family?
A lot of people have liked it. Some people have said, yeah, that's kind of my situation, and I've played for veteran events and things like that. So it's pretty well received.
Now, what do you feel music says that words really can't?
Music gives you that kind of idiom to get your emotions out there and for other people to feel the same thing. I mean, you can talk to people, but it's kind of different. It's kind of like if you watch a movie and you take the soundtrack away, it's just dialogue. But once you add the dialogue with the music in the background, it just activates something else in your brain. It's like, oh, wow, now I get it.
When we talk about these songs and we talk about that passion and we talk about here's something that, words can't. And as you said, you take away the soundtrack and it's just dialogue. And there's some funny clips out there when they switch song tracks in your favorite movies. But when did you first know that you had a voice, but not just a voice, but had something to say?
Within the last 3 years is when I actually started songwriting. Before that, I've been playing 30 plus years, and I've been playing other people's music. And I'm getting to that point in my age now that, I've got to look back and say, what have I done to leave a mark in the art world? And I've got 3 sons, and I'm also thinking, what am I doing legacy that I can leave for them? So one day I just kind of got the urge to start writing some lyrics and played around with some harmony and melody ideas. And my first song was made, and I sent it off to Nashville to be recorded. And now I've been doing it pretty nonstop for the last 3 years.
What was the first song that you wrote? Can you walk us through that?
It was kind of my anti-U.S. political for the last 4 years that we had somebody in charge that I didn't think should have been in charge. And it was kind of all the stuff that's happened in the last 4 or 5 years. It was just kind of what I like to call my bitch song, which pretty much is country music in a nutshell. You're complaining about something or somebody. So.
I like that. Did you feel very like a cathartic release after your bitch song there?
Oh yeah, I mean it's fun, and then to hear it actually live and hear it on the radio and stuff like that, it's like, oh wow, cool. I actually did something that kind of proud of, even though it was just a therapeutic session for me to just let off some steam.
And when we travel back in time and we talk to young high school Dan, who's a rock star bass player there, what was the first song that you remember learning?
That's when I was in my metal phase. I wouldn't have listened to country music to save my life back in those days because that's what my parents grew up listening to. So, kids in their teenage years have to do everything opposite of what their parents do, but yet then we become them when we get older. So I was into kind of the heavy metal hair band scenes of the late 80s, early 90s. And at that time, I was going through a Rush phase. So Canada came in a pinch right there with Geddy Lee and Neil Peart and all of them.
When did you notice the switch? When you said, "Hey, I love this heavy metal, like long hair bands, let's go." Then we joined the army. When did it switch to country?
When I got into my 20s and 30s, later 20s and 30s, I like pretty much listening to every style of music because there's a different song for every mood you have. And that's what music is really great because you can feel a certain way and program a certain kind of song to make you keep either wanting to feel that way or get out of that feeling. And as I got older, of course, when you get older, your political views change and the world, being around the world, changes how you see things. And I realize now that the songs I sing is more about working class and middle class, and country is kind of the thing that really lets you express those kind of views better than some of the other genres.
Like death metal, for example.
Uh-huh.
Now, I noticed that your sound to me, it blends this country, Tex-Mex, Texas swing, and rock. Was there a reason why you chose to join all those styles together, or was it kind of a happy accident?
Well, I live on the border of Mexico, so I have a lot of Hispanic culture around me. My wife's also Hispanic, so married into the culture as well. Um, so I just kind of being here in the border for 20 years. This is beginning my 21st year here on the border. I'm just bringing stuff that I've grown up around or things that I see that need attention brought to them.
I want to ask you this question. When we talk about music, there you have this certain glow about you in terms of how much you love talking about music, which is great. Are there any influences or anybody who is influential to your music career that, let's say maybe people out there would be surprised to hear, or even one of your sons?
Well, like I said, I grew up in the rock age, and one of the bands that really got me into thinking about like different meters, different time signatures, and things like that was Rush because Neil Peart had a doctorate in rhythm composition. And that's what made him one of the best drummers that everybody looks up to. And from there, I started jazz band when I was in high school. That's how I actually started to learn how to play the bass. I was actually a tuba player.
Wow.
And they needed a bass player for the jazz band, and that exposed me to all the like the R&B, the swing, the blues, all those different kind of styles. And then, of course, being in the army band, playing with all these other musicians, exposed me to other cultures and other styles. So it's kind of like a little, melting pot. Different times of my life brought different ideas and things like that in. And so that's kind of how I came to be how I am now, where I play a lot more like rhythm bluesy kind of stuff. It's really all about variety, especially nowadays. You can't really just stick with one style. You got to kind of play to the crowd, kind of like a DJ does. They can sense when one type of music they're playing is dying down, so they switch it up. And that's what I like to do. I like to keep a kind of a variety going, not just strictly country, but country with rock or country with a Spanish influence. Where like in Saturday Night in a Border Town, I added an accordion to it and gave it more of a Spanish flair, but it's still kind of a country song. And my newest one, Maria Margarita, is also the same thing. I added an accordion to it, even though it's like a Texas waltz. I added the Spanish flair to it. So I just like to dibble and dabble in different things and see what works and what doesn't work.
You'd mentioned earlier that your parents loved country music, and that was kind of what it was there. And you rebelled by doing heavy metal, metal, and death metal. My terms, not yours, of course. Uh, do you remember any other genre outside of that rush when you were a tuba player, and then you switched over to bass, and even now with all of the cultural musical melting pot that you're putting together? What's one that you say, geez, I haven't done that one yet?
I haven't done any kind of a rap style. I know a lot of nowadays there's a lot of country rap, as they call it. I'm still kind of iffy if I ever want to try something like that, but it's something, I'm open to.
Well, you were named like 2024 ISSA Singer-Songwriter of the Year and Male Vocalist. I think that people would be very surprised to hear you do a country rap. I say you go for it.
Yeah, it's something I would have to feel comfortable with, as well as, not degrading the style or anything like that.
No, no, that's fair. And you actually have a new one out, and we mentioned this in the introduction, was the 80s Child. What inspired this nostalgic anthem?
That was just my kind of, I guess, my showing of how I grew up and how the people of that time period grew up. We were able to stay out till the lights came on at night, and then plus some until our parents came screaming at us down the road. But it's not like that anymore. So I just kind of, the way my sons are growing up is totally different than the way I grew up. They don't have the same freedoms that we had back in the 80s. And so that was just kind of my homage to growing up in the 80s and, get pulling on the heartstring of us Gen Xers out there.
And when we talk about that nostalgic feel and being raised differently, back in the day in the 80s and the 90s, some say that was kind of the epitome of like the best arcade games and the best cartoons. Did you have a favorite arcade game and cartoon growing up?
Oh, I was always a Miss Pac-Man Galaga person. That's what I always spent my money on in the quarters.
Oh, that's really cool. It's an interesting point that you put it where back in the 80s, it was the doors are open when the street lights come on. You're supposed to get home. Here's your bicycle and, a roll of quarters if you were lucky. Now, of course, that's not the case. But I'm happy that you've written that song and hopefully everyone out there gets the opportunity to listen to 80s Child. But when you're writing a song, is this more about tapping into a memory or creating a new one for you?
It's all my songs have some sort of a personal aspect of my life that I've put out there. Of course, eventually you're going to run out of those kind of stories that people relate to, and you'll have to start either buying other people's lyrics and putting your own spin on it or something like that. But I'm kind of one of those that I'm still old school, where I believe the artist should make their own work, and it's more effective because you wrote it. So you're the one that's performing it how you want. You don't have to be like coached into singing it a certain way or whatever, because that's what somebody else wrote. And that's just my process. I think it's more successful to you as an artist when you do your own stuff.
Is that also what you bring into the classroom? I mean, we know that you're a music teacher as well. When you're teaching these students, is that something that you really push them as well? Is, hey, you really got to be true and you really got to make up your own?
Well, I mean, at my level, middle school to high school, the kids are just learning to be performers and learning music in general. So I mean, they have to learn through imitation a lot of times. But learning through imitation and plagiarizing or copying somebody directly, those are two different things. You don't want to go that route 100%. But it's just like jazz. You have to listen to jazz to be able to speak the language, or any language in that sense. You have to hear it before you can speak it, because you won't get the inflections and all the nuances and stuff. And music is a written verbal language, just like any kind of language is. And so if you don't listen or copy, you're not going to get it 100%. It'll just be notes and rhythms without the meaning behind it.
I like that you said that, where it's, hey, we're not looking to plagiarize. We're not looking to take somebody else's thing. We're here to learn. And sometimes the best way to learn is just copying what's there. So, hand placement, strumming, or finger placement, whatever you need, and then creating your own from there. I like that you've said that. But I do want to ask you what made the shift. So you left the army and then you became a teacher.
Right.
How did
I knew I still wanted to be in music. While I was in the army, I was actually learning to be an English teacher. So I was into like poetry and literature and stuff like that. But as I got out and I had some other little odds and ends jobs while I was paying my way through college, music was my passion. I had to get back to music. So I went back and got my degree in music teaching and band directing. So that's what I've been doing. And this will be my 20th year starting up in next month, actually.
Wow. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
And with all of your experience and with all the lessons from your military days and in the classroom, what's one lesson you really hope that you can pass along to your students after the bell rings?
Just that you need music in your life. You have to have something to fall back on. And again, it goes back to the mood music, because it can either make your day or break your day, and music kind of helps you get through it. Because unfortunately, we're born and we only have a set time on this earth, and you got to make the best of it any way you can. And music makes it so much better.
What's the most unique reaction you've gotten from your students when they're like, "Wait a minute, my teacher's also a rocking recording artist"?
I really don't mix personal life with school life too much, because that's just the way I am. I mean, if they find me, they find me, but I'm not going to like promote it and say, hey, you need to check out this, you need to listen to this. Uh, it's like if somebody likes my music, they're going to like my music, whether I tell them to or not. But, I've had some find me and they find my Facebooks and Instagrams and things like that. And, that's okay. Um, but of course, now, schools have real strict rules about teachers contacting students. So I let them know, hey, this is a public page. It's not going to be private, things like that.
So no one's rushing you in the classroom going, "Wait a minute, that was you. I heard your newest song, your 2024 nominee of the year." They're just like, "All right, well, I guess let's go learn some chords."
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, they know. If they know, yeah, that's me. I've got a few songs up. I just move on to the next subject.
And do you ever feel that when you're there teaching, it's kind of just like another stage where, which one would be tougher for you, where you get all these middle schoolers and high schoolers and you're teaching them music versus opening performing night on Saturday?
It it's a chore sometimes. It is. You gotta sometimes be an actor as well as a musician, because again, moods and the way the kids are acting sometimes really affects your mood, and you can't let it get to you as much as you need to. And you got to get to the program and keep chugging along no matter what life throws at you.
Now, when life is thrown at you some of these amazing events from Fort Worth to fundraisers, what's been your most favorite moment on stage so far?
Mm. I'd probably go back to my military time, and we actually played at the Montreux Jazz Festival, and so that was a real big deal. That's one of the biggest festivals I've played so far in my life.
And have you ever had a performance where the crowd just changed the song for you? They were just so into it and just everything felt like it was clicking.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what really musicians live for, is that symbiotic relationship between the audience and the band members. I mean, if you get an audience that's rocking out to your stuff, it's going to push the energy to you, and you're going to rock out even more to keep that feeling going. It's kind of the transcendental phase there.
No, of course. And when we talk about that emotional drive to it, is there a favorite line that you've written so far, or a favorite chorus where it just sticks with you over and over?
Mm, it would probably be the 22, because that message is important, and that's the one that I really want people to hear, and realize there's help and stuff out there if they're a veteran.
Well, that. And what's next for you, Dan? Where's the next stage going? You're the nominee for 2024. How do we get you to win 2025? What's next?
Well, unfortunately, the 2025 voting is already closed for me. I didn't nominate this year, but it is what it is. I don't do it to win awards or anything like that. I just do it to leave my mark on the world, and hopefully my sons look up and they'll realize, hey, he did something, and I can do something too, because that's what it's about: legacy and pushing on the next generation.
I love that. And if someone said to you, Dan, what's the dream venue? What's the dream stage? What's the dream song? What would you tell them?
The dream would be to probably do a concert with George Strait, since he's the biggest country person out there. I mean, he just did a concert here in Texas last year that drew the biggest crowd ever, over 100 and something thousand people at A&M Stadium. So that'd be kind of cool to do a duet concert with him in some sort of a big venue like that and fill it up.
Has to be an original song, though. No, nothing already out there. An original Dan White song that we're manifesting together here for you and George Strait.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
And when we look back on your journey from soldier to singer to teacher, what do you feel is your most proudest moment so far?
I just like it when I see the light bulb go on in the kids' heads when I'm teaching them a new music concept, and then all of a sudden you see their eyes light up and stuff. Oh yeah, I can do this now. Blah blah blah. That's really the reason I'm in teaching and passing on the art of music is watching the light bulbs.
And with all of the success that you've had, and there's more to come, I can assure you, what's a question that no one's ever asked you that you kind of wish they had?
Mm. I guess just is music a career? Because nowadays people still think, like we did in the 70s and 80s, oh, rock star, that's the life, go on tour, have groupies, all this kind of stuff. But, there's different aspects to music now. You've got music production, you've got music medicine, you've got all this different stuff. So you can still keep your music foundation and still do all these other cool jobs that are out there nowadays.
What do you feel is something that people tend to misunderstand the most about musicians or people that are in bands?
What do they misunderstand? Well, I mean, we're people too. We have problems and stuff, and we use music as our medium to get out of our funk.
Now, you've mentioned your sons a few different times. Do any of your three sons play musical instruments?
They were all in band, yes.
But they're not playing right now.
Well, my last one is my youngest one, who's about to go into 8th grade. He's playing trombone right now. The middle one played trumpet, and the oldest one played baritone. But they grow up. They don't. I always agreed if you have a better passion, go for it.
It's neat that your sons are playing brass, and that was what you were playing before you switched over to bass as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys ever jam session? I know that's a weird question, but hey, grab the instruments out of the closets there and let's sit around the table and see what happens.
No, it hasn't really got to that point yet.
Fair enough. And Dan, if someone gave you a magic wand and said, here's one thing you can change about the world tomorrow, what would it be?
They need to promote the arts more.
It's neat that as you're down there in the South in Texas there, what's something that you think is a huge misconception that everyone in the world has about Texas?
That everything's bigger in Texas. To a point, it's true, but it just depends on what you're looking at. Your paychecks definitely aren't bigger sometimes.
Depending on what you're looking at, everything isn't always as big in Texas. You heard it from Dan White. I love it. And Dan, where can people learn more about you? Where can they find you? I know you're on Spotify, but where else can people go?
You can go to my webpage, www.danwesleywhite.com. I've got also a Facebook profile with an artist profile Facebook with the same Dan Wesley White. I'm also on Apple Music and most of your streaming services.
And Dan, I have time for one last question. Actually, I have time for a couple more questions for you here. But my big question for you is, what makes Daniel White smile?
Watching my kids grow up and just seeing them be able to overcome things that maybe I couldn't at their age.
No, I love that. And what's the next song? When's it coming out?
Well, I just had one come out in May, so the next one will probably be out towards I would say either the end of August or the middle of September.
Okay. Well, it's all the time I have for you today on Coffee with Chris, Daniel White. This has been absolutely amazing. Singer-songwriter nominee 2024, 80s mix 22. Get out there, support him, Google him, Instagram, Facebook, creep him out as much as you possibly can. Stream the songs everywhere that you possibly can. Dan, thank you so much for your time for this. This has just been an absolute pleasure for me.
Oh, thanks for having me on.